We have a new active region that's rotating into Earth view off of the sun's east limb, and a stealthy solar storm is on its way to Earth. Will it be strong enough to impact us? Those stories and more in the news this week. Solar activity this week begins to get pretty interesting. We start with a stealthy solar storm that was launched starting around the southern polar region, and which kind of spread to about half of the disk. We could see some various dimming regions on the disk that shows us how much of the sun was involved. Now this storm is headed toward Earth, but it's moving very slowly, so we're not expecting much impact except at high latitudes. So you aurora photographers, you might start charging your batteries because you might get a chance at high latitudes. Now amateur radio operators are also happy because we have a new active region that's rotating into Earth view now, and it's been firing off a few solar flares and a solar storm or so even on the backside, so we're very happy about it. Yet it's not an M-flare player, and I doubt that it's going to be, but it will boost radio propagation here over the next few days, and it may keep the bands happy for a couple weeks. Switching to our M-flare thread meter, you can see the X-ray flux continues to be extremely low, and by proxy this means the solar flux is also low. We're seeing some of the lowest numbers we have all cycle, and I know radio propagation is absolutely in the dumper this week, but we have a reprieve. There's a new region that's rotating into Earth view off of the sun's east limb, and this should cause the solar flux to slowly ramp up over the next couple of days. And what's nice is that this region looks strong enough that it will sustain that brightened solar flux easily over the next week. Now I don't know if it's going to be strong enough to bump us up to marginal propagation conditions. It may still be at the top end of poor, but nonetheless we should appreciate that little bump in solar flux to kind of get us through the next week, and then another region will rotate yet into Earth view. Switching to our solar storm conditions, you can see after we got hit by some mini solar storming back on the 20th and the 21st, things quieted down, but then we got hit by some sustained fast wind that was strong enough to bump us up to active conditions and bring aurora down to mid-latitudes just for a short, brief moment. But it was nice. It lasted for a little bit more than a day before things began to quiet down, and since then things have gotten quieter and quieter. That's the way it is at solar minimum, folks. But it looks like we do have that mini solar storm, kind of a stealthy, slow solar storm on its way. It could hit and bring aurora to high latitudes again. I doubt it's going to bring us up to storm conditions, but you aurora photographers at high latitudes, it might be worthwhile to kind of stay on your toes. And even though the solar storms as of late have been so weak they haven't even bumped us up to storm levels, we're still seeing beautiful aurora shots in many parts of the world. And I have to thank the aurora field reporters for being so dedicated to get such amazing shots in these tough conditions, like this in Manitoba and in Saskatchewan. Aurora was seen in Alberta, and it dipped down into the States. People got shots in Michigan and in Illinois and in Minnesota. And if we go down south, aurora was seen in New Zealand, and along with a stunning lunar eclipse, it was seen in Antarctica. So what else does the sun have in store for us this week? Well, this is stereo A. It's our backside monitor. You can see here's Earth, here's the sun, and here's stereo A staring at the sun from behind. And what you can immediately see is there's a lot more going on the backside. We have two bright regions in stereo's view right now. The one that's sitting around center disk, that's the one that's just beginning to rotate into Earth view, and you can see on the backside it's been firing off some mini solar storms and flares, which is good news because that means it's a little bit stronger of an active region, and it might maintain its configuration even as it rotates across the Earth-facing disk. Now, it's not enough to cause any M flares, so you GPS users don't have to worry, but amateur radio operators should be jumping for joy because it means it's definitely going to boost the solar flux. Now, what's also nice is that we have a second region, and that will rotate into view about a week after the first one does. So, amateur radio operators, once again, we have a good chance. This is the reprieve we've been looking for, and we could boost the solar flux back up into the marginal conditions for radio propagation, and all breathe a sigh of relief. Switching to our solar storm conditions and aurora possibilities over the coming week, we're quiet right now, but we are anticipating the hit from that stealthy solar storm that's on its way to Earth. It should hit around late on August 1st into August 2nd, but we're expecting it to be kind of a gentle hit because this storm is so slow. At high latitudes, NOAA's expecting unsettled to active conditions with only about a 20% chance of a minor storm. At mid-latitudes, we're expecting unsettled conditions with only a very small chance for a minor storm, because most likely if there's any aurora that's going to be seen at mid-latitudes, it's going to be very sporadic and very elusive, so it's going to be hard to catch. But storms like these that are very weak will actually help you GPS users at low latitudes because it helps to stabilize the upper atmosphere, so your GPS reception might just improve. Switching to your solar flare and particle radiation storm outlook over the coming week, everything is still in the green when it comes to solar flares. This new region that is rotating into Earth view, it is not an M flare player, so we don't have any risk for radio blackouts, which should make amateur radio operators and GPS users very happy. On the other side, it is strong enough to boost the solar flux. NOAA is thinking that we're going to go into marginal propagation conditions again, starting in a few days as that solar flux continues to rise. And what's nice is if this region continues to stay active, we should remain at marginal easily over the next week. So space weather this week is getting very interesting. We have that stealthy solar storm that's on its way to Earth now, and it's going to be a gentle hit, so we only expect aurora at like high latitudes. Maybe too difficult to see it at mid-latitudes, but nonetheless, aurora photographers, you might consider charging your batteries. Now, amateur radio operators are also happy this week with this new region that's rotating into Earth view, and it's been firing off a few solar flares and even a small solar storm. So this should actually be boosting our solar flux here over the next couple days back into the marginal levels for radio propagation, and if it's strong enough, these conditions will continue easily over the next week. And now you GPS operators, you should also be pretty happy because this weak solar storm is not likely going to be strong enough to disrupt you all that much, and those of you at low latitudes might actually benefit and get cleaner reception as the storm stabilizes the upper atmosphere. As far as the rest of you at high latitudes using GPS, well, as long as you stay away from the dawn-dusk terminators and away from aurora, you should be looking pretty good. I'm Tamitha Scove. Thank you for watching.